Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm really excited to bring you today's video. If you enjoy my content, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's get started. The cold and snowy winter days of 1959 set the stage for an adventure that would change the lives of a group of young mountaineers in the Soviet Union. Igor Dyatlov had completed his preparations for a challenging climb in the Ural Mountains. Dyatlov was a respected leader in the mountaineering world. Around him, there was a team of students from universities, all experienced and highly disciplined in mountaineering. Each one was a courageous individual, skilled at surviving in harsh conditions. The group planned to climb to the high peaks of the Ural Mountains. This climb was to be a significant milestone in their careers. On January 23, 1959, they set off as a group of 10, but one of the mountaineers fell ill at the last minute and had to return, leaving only 9 members. Their goal was to reach the Dyatlov Pass, set up camp, and ski there. At that time, winter sports were quite popular in the northern regions of the Soviet Union. But this journey would be an unusual challenge and experience for the team. The group began their journey, advancing through deep snow and icy valleys of the high mountains in freezing cold weather. They were equipped with the best mountaineering gear, from clothing to footwear. They were prepared for harsh weather conditions, but even this would not be enough to help them face the brutal face of nature. Their route was carefully planned. They had set out a few days' journey, aiming to cover a specific distance each day. The harsh conditions of nature often forced them to alter their plans, yet the group remained determined. Each person was ready to work together and trust one another to reach their goal. Dyatlov, as the leader of the group, had taken on the responsibility. Under his guidance, the team was advancing safely. However, this journey would change everyone's life forever. Nature would not only present them with challenges but would also lead them down a path to death. From that day on, neither anyone nor history itself would know the deep secret that lay behind this journey. On February 1, 1959, Igor Dyatlov and 8 mountaineers set off towards the Ural Mountains. As they left, everything was going according to plan. During this challenging journey, the team was working in harmony with each other. However, something unexpected was about to happen. The group's return was expected by February 12. Unfortunately, by the time that date arrived, no news was received. Initially, their families felt a slight concern, but over time, this situation grew more serious. Dyatlov's group was made up of well-trained and experienced mountaineers, so their disappearance raised suspicions. As time passed, concerns about the missing group grew. Social circles, friends and family members began to feel that something was behind the silent disappearance. A group of people gathered to search for their missing loved ones in the snow-covered mountains despite the harsh weather. By February 20, the situation had become even more serious. On this date, the group still had not returned. Families began to realize there were no traces left by the missing mountaineers, and not a single communication channel had been established. Fear reached its peak. Desperately, their loved ones and friends turned to the authorities. At first, the Soviet Union's regional security forces decided that the disappearance was simply a mountaineering accident, and their search efforts were not expedited. However, as news spread and considering the experience of the missing group, the authorities began to understand the gravity of the situation. On February 26, a professional rescue team was formed to search for the missing mountaineers. Rescue teams worked for several days in the harsh winter conditions to search the area where the mountaineers had disappeared. The cold, snowstorms, and fog greatly hindered their efforts. However, with the hope that the mountaineers' traces might still be somewhere, the search continued. With each passing day, more questions arose about the fate of the missing group. This became the beginning of a mystery, not only for the families of the missing mountaineers, but also for the Soviet authorities. The rescue teams, after February 26, started to comb the region intensely in hopes of finding survivors. However, the team soon made a shocking and terrifying discovery. The rescue teams reached the point where the mountaineers had set up camp about 2 weeks later. The tent was in ruins, almost completely abandoned, but the strangest thing was that the tent had been cut from the outside. There were clear-cut marks on the sides of the tent. This suggested that someone had hastily and quickly left the tent. The belongings and equipment inside were left in a disordered state, proving that panic had occurred. Numerous personal items, clothes, food, and other mountaineering equipment were left behind inside the tent. Everything seemed organized as if it hadn't been abandoned under normal circumstances, but something was missing. Those who left the tent seemed to have been forced to escape from something. What was even more terrifying was that most of the mountaineers had left the tent without their clothes and shoes. This suggested that the mountaineers had acted visibly, in a hurry, and were in a state of great panic. In the Ural Mountains, even at that time, temperatures could drop to -20 degrees Celsius. With sharp winds, the fact that the mountaineers had fled into the forest barefoot and wearing only their underwear in such conditions indicated a terrifying situation. Some tracks extended to trees near the tent. The mountaineers had suddenly left this spot. as if fleeing from a threat. Without knowing the reason, they had moved forward through the snow barefoot, fighting the cold with their bodies. The way they abandoned the tent clearly indicated that they were running from something dreadful. But what was outside, or what caused them to flee so quickly? Until that moment, there had been various theories about the missing group. But the discovery of the tent opened the door to a great mystery. After the tent was abandoned, only more questions and the pieces of a more complex puzzle remained. After the tent was abandoned, the rescue teams continued to search for more clues about the findings. Several kilometers away, in a forested area, covered in snow, they came across a region where the bodies were found. The teams marked the area where the bodies of the missing 9 mountaineers were discovered, following their tracks. However, the scene that the rescue team encountered when they reached the location of the bodies told much more than anything else. They noticed that the bodies had been moved to different points and in strange ways. Some bodies were scattered across distant locations. One group was found at the edge of the forest, while others were found a few hundred meters away, separated from one another. However, the movement of the bodies was not just a physical scattering, it also brought with it another mystery. Most of the mountaineers had sustained severe injuries. Many of the bodies had serious trauma to their heads and chests. These injuries were so severe and specific that they couldn't be explained by an avalanche or a natural accident. The marks on their heads and chests looked as though they had been struck forcefully by a hard object, yet no object capable of causing such blows was found in the vicinity. Some of the bodies appeared normal from the outside, but the internal injuries and trauma marks were devastating. One of the strangest findings was that some of the bodies were missing their tongues and eyes. The loss of the tongue and eyes is often associated with severe trauma, but this was not consistent with a typical mountaineering accident. Normally, such trauma wouldn't be expected after an event like an avalanche. Moreover, the bodies that were missing eyes and tongues seemed to suggest that deliberate harm had been inflicted. While the team was in shock over the condition of the bodies, they also tried to find an explanation for the injuries and losses. No matter how carefully they examined the bodies, it was clear that the injuries were of an extraordinary nature. They were so severe that explaining them through an avalanche or a natural event was almost impossible. All these findings deepened the mystery even further. The movement of the bodies and the injuries they had sustained pointed to something beyond a disaster, something supernatural or man-made. There was no doubt that the bodies belonged to the missing mountaineers, but there was no clear evidence of what had happened to them. This event would lead all researchers and experts into a deep exploration of the unknown. The mystery of the Dyatlov Pass incident quickly spread after the bodies were discovered, leading to the emergence of various theories. The unknown nature of the event sparked the imagination of the public, and a wide field of speculation was created among scientists and researchers. That is, each theory attempted to offer an explanation. None of them could be supported by concrete evidence, so these theories remained hypotheses rather than proven facts. Initially, the idea that a military experiment might have accidentally caused the incident gained significant traction. In the late 1950s, secret military tests were being conducted in various parts of the Soviet Union. Some theorists suggested that the Dyatlov group might have inadvertently witnessed a military experiment and that their deaths were a result of this. According to this theory, the group was exposed to a nuclear test or a secret military operation, which allegedly caused the abnormal deaths of the group members, and even some of the injuries were claimed to be a result of this. However, no solid evidence has been found to support this theory. Another popular theory suggested that the incident might have been caused by an avalanche. Avalanches are natural disasters that can occur during mountaineering and mountain expeditions, and the steep areas of the Ural Mountains in the Soviet Union were known to be prone to avalanche. This theory explained that the group members tried to escape from an avalanche and fled the tent in panic, leaving their clothes behind. However, this explanation was contradicted by the absence of typical avalanche injuries on the bodies. Additionally, most of the injuries were so specific and severe that they couldn't have been caused by an avalanche. Another theory was that the incident might have been caused by a supernatural or paranormal influence. This theory spread quickly, especially due to the mysterious nature of the event and the strange injuries on the bodies. The presence of old settlements around the Dyatlov Pass and the local population's discussions about ancient beliefs and legends in the area led to the emergence of such theories. Some believed that the group had fallen victim to an ancient curse or a malevolent spirit. This theory originated from the imagination of those seeking to explain the event as a supernatural occurrence, but no scientific evidence was found to support it. In addition to these theories, other explanations were also proposed. These included claims that the group had suffered a psychological breakdown, that they had harmed each other in a panic, or that they had been attacked by a wild animal. However, the complex nature of the injuries on the bodies made it impossible to explain them through such events, rendering these theories invalid as well. Each theory, instead of providing a clear answer, seemed to create more confusion for the researchers trying to understand the dark nature of the event. As time passed, The Dyatlov Pass incident became one of the greatest mysteries of the Soviet Union and, simultaneously, a global enigma that fascinated people. However, no theory or proposed idea has been able to fully illuminate the truths behind the incident. Therefore, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains an unresolved unknown, filled with controversial theories and unsolved mysteries to this day. As the years went by, the Dyatlov Pass incident was etched into history as a deep mystery. After the tragic disappearance in 1959, the Soviet Union initially launched an official investigation to understand all the details of the incident. However, the results of the investigation did not provide the clarity that was expected. The Soviet government at the time defined the incident as a result of natural events, attributing the deaths of the group members to natural factors. Explanations, such as an avalanche, cold weather conditions, or the risks of mountaineering activities, were proposed. However, these explanations did not satisfy the public or the scientific community. The unusual nature of the injuries and the strange features of the bodies reinforced the feeling that something was missing. The blows to the heads and chests, the loss of eyes and tongues, the strange movement of the bodies, these pointed to something far beyond a standard avalanche or natural disaster. The Soviet government's response only led to more doubt among researchers and the public. As a result, various theories continued to spread, but none reached a definitive conclusion. Over time, it became increasingly clear that the Soviet Union's official explanations were inadequate, and that further investigation was needed to uncover the truth behind the incident. Many experts continued their research into the event. However, each new discovery and explanation only raised more questions. Over the years, various investigations supported different theories, but none provided a real explanation. The mystery of the incident remained locked. Like a black box dot, the Dyatlov Pass incident continues to attract the attention of researchers, scientists, and mountaineering enthusiasts to this day. A wide research community has been attempting to uncover the truth behind the event. However, none of these have been fully clarified. Still, this did not diminish the interest in the event. Like many unsolved mysteries throughout history, people continued to view the Dyatlov Pass incident as a veil of secrecy. The documentaries, books, and various speculations that spread about the event kept both the public and academic circles intrigued. Although everyone proposed a different solution, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains an unanswered question. This unsolved mystery has grown over time, and, despite being a real-life event, it has started to be told like a legend. The incident continues to ignite human curiosity, imagination, and fears of the unknown. Though Dyatlov Pass has been buried in the dark corners of history with unsatisfying explanations and missing answers, the interest in it has never waned. This event continues to spark debate both in the scientific world and among the public. And people are still trying to solve this great mystery with new possibilities every day.